whole time, the whole thing was shadowing us, right behind us, right on the side of us. You could kind of see the thing moving through the woods.
All I can remember is flipping the light on, and I see this creature, and I knew in my heart, I knew in my mind, the whole night, this isn't a man.
And then this thing walks across the road, takes a turn towards us, and then leaps over a guardrail.
Went to look forward, and there was a big black thing, is all I can call it.
Welcome to Squatch-D TV, exploring the Bigfoot mystery each week with your hosts, veteran researcher, author, and TV personality, the Squatch detective, Steve Kulls, and from the Bigfoot Research Project of Kentucky, Chris Bennett. Sit back and buckle up as we bring you guests from around North America discussing the Bigfoot phenomena, but not without a few laughs too. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
The whole time.
And good evening, cyberspace. Sorry about the delay. We're having a ton of technical troubles tonight. And so welcome to Squatch-D TV for June 28th, 2020. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective Steve Kulls. There's my co-host down there.
Hey, Steve. How's it going, bud?
You know how it is. I just...
Little technical issues with standing. No, we're not too bad here in Kentucky. Yeah. It's kind of rainy here today. I hope you're not shoveling snow up there in New York.
Yep. One comment about the intro music and the thing is, Dave Winter said that the intro music is set too loud. No, it's not set too loud. It's the StreamYard process, and I've tried everything and under. It's either going to be inaudible or it's too loud. There's if you play the video, everything, the whole entire video actually has been compressed, so it's at the same level straight on through. So I don't understand.
Like, on one setting you can't hear it, and then on the next setting it's like wow.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue here. In other words, I can't produce a piece of music on this thing that sounds normal one way. Like if you listen to it, you can hardly hear it, and then you put it on here, and it's like. So I don't know. I don't get it. There's, like I said, it's one of the little ticks we have here, but one of the few. So I want to welcome everybody to this show. We did a very limited advertisement for this show tonight, just because of time constraint. For many who don't know, I'm off on expedition the next 2 days, starting Monday and Tuesday. So I will be bringing back some video from that, and hopefully some interesting results. One could hope. So, yep, I'll be out there with some of the team, and I want to wish Mike Ann get well. He is right now sitting in the ER, possibly kidney stones. I hope he's okay. So
Hang in there, Mike.
hang in there. So let's do our greetings. Of course, Cryptidville's in tonight.
Hey.
He needs a Snapple already. We got B. We haven't seen B in a while. Welcome back, B.
Hi, B.
David, good afternoon.
Thanks, David.
And we got, of course, Alan. Alan, how you doing, Rock? Kite Man, how you doing? Terry, welcome.
Terry.
And of course, my buddy Dan. Dan, how you doing, brother? Good to see you out there. Aaron, welcome.
Aaron, Dan, Aaron.
OT, what's going on?
OT.
And of course, we got Walt. So that's the start.
Walt. And little Walt, probably.
Little Walt, probably. If not, well, little Walt may be in bed. I tell you, it's been one hellacious week. Had some internet problems earlier this week and managed to scrape that all out. But for whatever reason, and also in is Chris. Good afternoon.
Chris.
Welcome again.
Pat.
Pat's in. Yep.
See ya. Yeah.
So, there's Pat. There he is. Hey, Pat.
Well, I would have issues with one company that I used to be with, Steve, and it was horrible. And then they would come here on the appointment day like a week later, and then all of a sudden everything worked perfectly. And then as soon as they left, man, it went back to horrible. I think they were like flipping a switch or something on me. I don't know.
Yep.
I'm not with those guys anymore.
Hello, Jimmy. Yeah. And you know what? I have not had problems only for the last maybe couple of weeks. I've been having issues with, which started to attack when we were taking a little time off, and also not all the time. It wasn't a consistent issue. It was like at times it was like the computers were just running all slow. So what I did was a couple of things. I upgraded our speeds. So now, now I'm at 400 megabytes a second for the internet. Of course, I have a smart home here, so everything is connected to the internet, just about. And Charlie Wonton is in the house.
Charlie.
And Nikki, welcome, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki. Don't do the smart home, Steve. Don't do it, man. That's how they get you. Skynet.
Oh, I'm not into conspiracy theories, and I've had this thing. It works wonderful. Everything normally, and so it's like, we have one of those Google things. My boys got it for me for Christmas 2 or 3 years ago, and really though, I mean, you can be talking like me and the other day. Me and my wife was talking about some kind of bamboo flooring we're looking at, and just with the speaker there, next time I open up my computer, guess what ads I'm getting? That's
ads
really weird.
For bamboo flooring. How about that?
Yeah, well, that's why I don't have Google.
Yeah, somebody is listening somewhere.
Oh, Alan. At least something smart in my house is smart. That's very true. Touche.
I wasn't going to say that, Alan, but...
all right, I took a beat there. My goodness. So, very interesting stuff tonight. And, I've been at this a long time. And I managed to find... I've managed to find a lot of my older research and some of the documents and scientific reports done by scientists. And one of my favorite scientists was Henry Wolf Fehrenbach, who retired from the community quite some time ago. In fact, I don't think we had him on when you were co-hosting the show, Chris.
No.
But he was awesome. It was like a year before he retired, or within the year he retired. But he had done some statistical work on the John Green database, and also reports contributed by Dr. John Napier, who I've talked about on the show.
Yeah.
And yet another doctor, which I'm trying to look at, but John Green, Some have been by Peter Byrne. So it's quite an extensive. So I'll start off with and Jimmy. Welcome, Jimmy.
Jimmy.
We'll start off with a interesting thing. Let's start with some questions. At a collection of 706 footprints. Now, this article came out, I want to say, circa 2000. So this is a 20-year-old report.
Yeah.
Hard to believe. But let me just check the date on this.
Eric's in the house. Hi, Eric Altman.
Hello, Mr. Altman. So anyway, this report I've actually had for 14 years. So I actually have the date I printed it on the paperwork right here. So but they used a collection of 706 footprints, and what do you think the average length was of the foot?
I'm going to go with 14 inches.
14. If anybody else wants to comment in the comments what they think, throw it out there now. So we have an average footprint length, because we got talking last week about footprints.
Right.
And hey, Eric, say hello to give Woody a pat on the head for us. Tell him we're all pulling for him.
Yeah.
Woody the Pomeranian. So we got a 16, 17 and a half. What did you say again? You said 16, Chris?
14.
14. Okay, so Chris, the average length was 15.6 inches.
Off a little bit, but yeah.
So Walt was the closest.
Good job, Walt.
Yeah. So yeah, it was 15.6%.
And B and Jimmy, they said 16. Yeah.
So I found that very interesting, because in New York, a lot of our tracks are like 13, 14, 15 inches, which is within a couple of inches of 2.5 inches of the average. Right. And the PNW, they've seen tracks, 17, 18 inches. I asked how Woody was doing, and he said, "Will do. He's having a rough night. Get it? Rough."
Rough. Well, see, I would think I just threw that number out as a guess, because I would think that if you have some big old boys walking around out there, they're not out as much as the smaller guys,
Yeah.
So although you might have find a track that's 21 inches long and 9 inches wide at the heel, that's going to be a few and far between, I'm thinking.
So they talk about gait, where there's been actual tracks found. Most footprints that are found have obviously been imprinted in the absence of human observers, except 89 sets cited above.
Right.
So the actual pace length. This is a very complicated article. I don't want to really read it and bore everybody. The pace length for the mean average foot length is exactly 5 feet.
God, see, that was one of the things that I had a discussion a couple of years ago, I guess, maybe longer than that, about the track length of the Patty trackway, but not just that one on any of them, but on that one you could see the video. Of course, we already talked about this. If the video was faked, then so could the trackway be. But factually, if that was the actual length of step in there, if it's really long and it's a human, their head's going to be bobbing up and down because they're trying to stretch out and if they can make that distance, they're trying to reach that distance. Yeah. But with Patty's head, it was pretty smooth all the way across as she did her walk.
And welcome to Jimmy Blanton. Jimmy, good to see you, brother. Welcome aboard. Hope you're feeling better. So you're not feeling that great. So we hope you're feeling better. One other side note too. Every once in a while, remember we used to see Mike Shaw in the chat. Remember Mike?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, 4 days ago, he passed away.
Oh man, I hate to hear that.
Yeah, so yeah, it was very unfortunate. We'd see Mike Shaw in the chat room. And I just found out he passed away, so I sent condolences out.
Yeah.
This morning. So Mike was from Ohio, and speed. The world record walking speed is about 11 miles an hour. That's a world record. He estimates that the average pace length of a Sasquatch, from the statistics, mind you, and this is all from statistics, looking at stride and cadence and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He states that they walk about 6 miles per hour, which is a pretty
right.
Well, and me, I probably can do 3.5 miles an hour, 4 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So that it's a couple of miles an hour at a walk.
Right.
But they estimate that the running speed, the top burst speed for a Sasquatch would be about 27 miles per hour, based on extrapolating human gaits and Sasquatch gaits and stuff like that.
Right.
It's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Extrapolation from the step lengths and their running cadence. So when it's the burst speed is 27 miles an hour. However, the running speed, he suggests a top speed of maybe 35 to 40 miles an hour, which is kind of interesting. The speed of a galloping horse.
Yeah.
So, and that reminds me of the movie Exists. I don't know if you've seen Exists.
Oh yeah.
Where the guy's on the bike and the Sasquatch is like running alongside of him.
Yeah.
That was pretty wild.
Yeah. I believe I have seen one example of a creature running in Kentucky, and it's faster than you would think. Yeah. Like you're looking at it and you're thinking, "There's no way, this can't be."
Yeah. Yeah. So that would make sense, because OT even said a silverback has a burst speed of 24 miles an hour. So from Henner's study, it was 27.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alan says, note to self, he ain't outrunning one. That is definitely true. Yeah. And that's why. And Mick, welcome, Mick.
Mick, good to see you.
He estimates that the weights from the the weights really aren't. I'm not going to get into too much of the weight stuff. Foot height and to weight. And here's where it's interesting. A 12-inch print, the height would normally kick off about 7 foot and weigh about 490 pounds. For a 14-inch track, it would be 7'6", weighing 580 pounds. 15.5 or 15.6, the average size track in the study, would mean the average Sasquatch stood for about 7'10".
Yeah.
Had a 65-inch chest circumference and weighed about 660 pounds. And then he actually goes up to a 24-inch print where he says it would be 9'5" and weigh about a ton. Or, I'm sorry, not a ton. Excuse me, 1,040 pounds. So half a ton. So that's some and this is all done off of statistical data, which, that was his science,
Right.
So what he talks about, the weight of an animal can be used to predict its basal metabolic rate, meaning minimal daily caloric requirement by mathematical relationship, something called Kleber's law. That is an extremely tight one. Application of this rule suggests 5,000 calories for the average Sasquatch, as defined by the statistics. With exercise and inclement weather, this value can double or triple. Hence, a diet that is minimal omnivorous, if not slanted toward carnivory, is required to fulfill that demand. So what he's saying is that it would have to be an omnivore or a carnivore.
Right.
That makes sense because of its size.
Yep. Takes a lot of calories to move a big body like that.
Yeah. So then we have, and here we get into prey food values. And he says here, I will provide some comparison data. Internal organs would yield 12,000 to 35,000 calories for white-tailed deer, 20,000 to 50,000 for mule deer, and 60,000 to 90,000 for elk. These values would rise dramatically, about 3,500 calories a pound, with the inclusion of fat stores around the body cavity. Reports exist for all of these species being preyed upon by a Sasquatch. Interesting. And mind you, he's going back to reports from the 50s to likely the time this report came out.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
It is.
Yeah.
So here's something about their initial selectivity for soft internal organs, which they do. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of there have been numbers of alleged Sasquatch deer kills where the hey Chief, how are you, brother? Tom is the chief of a police department in Kentucky.
Welcome.
So it seems to be a lot of deer kill with a lot of the internal, especially the liver missing.
Right.
So, and that would make sense, because if you think about it, a deer liver would probably be its needed. Oops, what is going on here?
A lot of calories in liver.
Well, that would be, if you think about it, if they have to have 5,000 calories a day, a deer liver would probably be about 5,000 calories.
Probably, yeah.
So,
at least.
B says that if Bigfoot eat meat, I think a lot of animals would be depleted. Well, number one, we're looking at a species that's not highly populated. We know that. I mean, how many sightings a year do we have of them versus a deer or a bear? Mind you, there are 50,000 bear in New York.
Yeah,
and there's over 2 million deer in New York. That's the census they've taken, at least a few years ago. So amongst all those hunters that we have shooting deer and bagging deer, there seems to be a fine population of deer. So I don't think that a Sasquatch or so let's say there's 20 Sasquatch in a wood. I don't think they would deplete as many deer as, if you have 20 Sasquatches in a particular area, there's probably going to be about 100 hunters. I mean, this is just off the top.
Well, in this area in Kentucky, there's so many deer. Honestly, you don't really want to drive anywhere at night, because you see them all the time hit by the side of the road. People hit a deer like every night here. I can drive, get out on the main road and head to Glasgow, which, I don't know, 15, 20 miles. And I'll see a deer like every day, a fresh kill.
Hang on a second, Chris.
Yeah, man. And, sometimes I'll joke with my wife about, oh, that's a fresh kill. We should stop and get the tenderloin, eat some roadkill, man. But I never do. But the guy with that shovels the lime on them and drags them to the side of the road, he stays busy every day here. I think we got plenty of deer.
Yeah, and they're playing. I don't believe that a Sasquatch would necessarily prey on a bear, just because they are.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't. I don't think they'd go after a bear.
So OT's asking, is Steve sick, guys? Maybe that's because I got no. I said take over for a second. I had a dog busting in the door. So
Steve's wrestling the hounds back there.
Well, the big one didn't. The little one did, and he's the guy that causes more trouble. The big one would just come over, look, and lay down. The little one would come over and start asking me for a cookie halfway through the show, which he does. So I've got a couple of questions. Well, one comment from Mick said actually stride length, foot size, and gait are extremely interesting. Most people don't give it a second thought, but it's immensely important to differentiating a hoax from the real thing. Absolutely.
Very true. Yeah. Very true.
when you look at a stride length and you see it's not quite right, it's one great example is in the Adirondack Jack video I did on the channel. I talk about, I have pictures of tracks. In fact, you see a clip of that on the intro of me looking at these tracks, and what those are actually bare oversteps. And you could tell the stride was only a couple of feet. It was not anything big. Jay Bachochin in the house.
Welcome, Jay.
And Ron Bowles in the house. So, and Tom Dixon asked if any reports on the condition of recovered animal carcasses. Yes. A lot of them will find, a broken neck, broken leg, whatever. Some non-predatory type of like a cat kill or a dog kill, killing with it apparently having the gut ripped open and the deer liver removed from the carcass. So they look in it and the deer is gone when the hunters gave it an amateur necropsy. For those who don't know, what necropsy is basically an autopsy on an animal. So that's the actual proper term. So
I'm surprised there aren't more road sightings, highway sightings here in Kentucky of these creatures on the side of the road, because basically all one would have to do, and all anybody would have to do, if you wanted to go live in the woods, is just come out at night and pick up the deer that just got hit by the car and drag it back to the woods with you. And you never have to kill anything, man. I mean, those cars are out there doing it for you every day.
Well, how many? Now you got a dog issue. Yep. But then again, we have that whole, how many reports do we get where, hey, something, came into my deer locker and took all my deer out. Something, I shot a deer and I saw it drop and I got down to it was gone. And it wasn't dragged off. It's like something had picked it up and walked away. We've gotten a lot of those reports over the years. Even the Fouke, Arkansas, where the guy's prized hog was disappeared out of the pen. So he felt something lifted it up over the top. It was no way it could have gotten out, and it did not apparently be dragged off. And it was 1,000-pound hog. So,
I don't know that they're meat eaters. I don't know that they eat deer or turkey, but I know if they don't, it's an extremely waste of a good resource. It would think, common sense, you would think that they do it.
Yeah. Well, even from the study, they would have to get the caloric content. Black bears, even brown bears, they're omnivorous. They're not strictly carnivorous.
Right.
Because, they, especially black bears, they will chew and chew and chew and chew on different. Polar bears are carnivorous. They're meat eaters, flat out. They don't have much terrain to.
Yeah.
I don't know if grizzlies chew on brown. I don't know as much about grizzly not necessarily behavior, but their eating habits as I do the black bear, because I obviously I deal with the so I mean, because I hear the car coming, yell car. The waving grizzly. Remember the waving grizzly? Maybe I'll post that. Maybe I'll put that up a couple of weeks. The woman with that filmed the bear. Hello, and the bear he sits up and waves at him. But did you know it's really interesting? I had an opportunity to actually throw some food to black bears, and it's kind of funny because as you're throwing them the food, they would sit there and go like this when they're done. They want you to throw them food, and that was their signal. And I noticed that the bears on these YouTube videos are doing the same thing, which is really weird. Bears are incredibly smart. Some of them. Black bears, they can be pretty dumb, but but
it could be a learned behavior there that's being passed down. Look, if you see a human go like this, and they might throw you some food.
Yeah, it's just I don't know how they picked that up, but it seems to be like a universal thing, because the bears I was watching were actually a grizzly bear doing that, and I was feeding black bears. So, they both do it. I was like, what the heck? Now, a polar bear, on the other hand, which is a totally different type of bear mentality, because polar bears are the only bear that will hunt man. Off the shoot, they will automatically see man and go, okay, I want to eat that.
That's the deal. Yeah. If you're out in the woods and you see a black bear, you go, boo, hey bear, you know, and then the bear will walk away. If you just see a grizzly, hey bear, you know,
they're gonna come get you.
Yeah, well, they should walk away, you know.
They don't. No.
But if you're up there, you know, at near the Arctic Circle, and you see a polar bear, and you go, hey bear, here he comes, man. Lunch. You know, you're dead. That's it.
OT says that grizzlies tend to funnel prey into obstacles. I've seen this, like when they hunt or elk or something. They do not. They're not. No, black bears can be incredibly dumb. Like, what the hell am I doing here? Because black bears are they're like the dogs of the forest. They're like they're not very brave. Not all. Not at all. They're not. Black bears are not. You would be surprised. I've seen. In fact, there's videos of a little dog coming out barking, or a cat even barking, you know, going after a black bear, and the black bear's like, I'm out of here, and they're gone. So, but the
Ron put up a question about Kentucky up there at the top, or 837 there. Isn't there a Squatch that has a nickname Howdy in Kentucky? I think it's called a Heidi. Rod, it depends on where you're from, and some people may pronounce it different ways.
Oh, I know what it is.
The Heidi behind.
The Heidi behind. That's right.
That's right.
Because, and the reason why they got that nickname was because you're ever walking in the woods and you hear something behind you,
right?
And you stop and it stops, and that's how they got the term the Heidi behind.
That's a Heidi behind. Yeah,
they hide behind you. Yep.
And some people might say howdy behind. You know. So that's very, very possible. In some areas, it could be referred to as a howdy. Makes sense. Okay. Anyway, back. What were you talking about, Steve? Sorry.
No, that's okay. And OT says, yeah, there's a famous picture of a cat treeing a black bear. Yeah, they're not brave. You know, they can fight out of fear, and that's what a lot of it is. And that's what people don't understand, is that, you know, if you shake them off, but when they're coming at you, you can go, you know, boom, 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 but spray them, they'll leave. Black bears do not like bear spray at all.
Well, you know, I'm not really familiar. I haven't really had seen a lot of black bears in this area, because they've been extant for a while. There used to be a lot of black bears right here in this area, and then people killed them out. So you could get over in eastern Kentucky. They're really thick over in there. Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia, a lot, and, you know, southeastern Kentucky. But in central Kentucky, not so much anymore. They're coming back, but the one that I did have an experience with was in New Mexico, and he just like walked out of a bush, and he like, you know, looked at me like he was shocked, like, you know. and I was the same way. I was like, ooh, you know. But I don't know that that's smart either, because surely he would have been able to smell me or something and then go the other way before he letting me know that he was there, I would think.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Yeah, a lot of times they're just like,
yeah,
and boom. I'm lucky. I'm blessed. You know, my research is I haven't seen a bear. I got to knock wood, because Washington County, which is where Whitehall is and Fort Hand is, and all those wonderful places, just had a little bit of a bear warning, a black bear warning. And, you know, but like I said, the way we walk is loud and proud, and that'll keep the bad animals away. Yet it will, because Sasquatch is a primate, will stir up their curiosity. If you start going on the prowl, like you're going to hunt them, then they will become very, very defensive and very, very sneaky themselves. So your chances are better if you're loud, of running into a Sasquatch, and less of a bear, or a fox, or a coyote, or wolves, or any or cats. Even the big cats are out here too. So brain size. Let's talk about brain size. Scaling of body weight to brain size in primates has been pursued by numerous authors. Application of these formulas leads to a predicted brain volume of about 770 cc, compared to that of a mountain gorilla of 530 cc, with a range of 420 to 685 cc. In the absence of any reports of cultural traits or fire use, very minimal and primitive tool use, and inferred low sociality of the Sasquatch, we are reduced to conjectures regarding their need to remember their large home range. So,
yeah.
So very
well, and true, the nutrition goes with brain size too,
Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, this is a scientist studying the reports and coming up with a very good piece of information. Is this is a lot of this is predictability, but it's based on statistical information.
Right. Well, based on what we do know about the Sasquatch, they would be an omnivore, and the reason for that is because they do have a well-developed brain. They're smart. They're even, you could even say they're a reasoning creature. I don't really want to know. I don't really like calling them animals, but
okay. So there was something in the chat room. Somebody asked. Yeah, I did too. It's 1260 cc. Actually, that is correct. So their brains would probably be like 60% the size of ours. So that makes sense. Then that would be based on scaling, which is all statistical information. Strength. It is often reported prodigious upper body strength of the Sasquatch can be profitably viewed in the light of human weightlifters, in whom lifting ability rises as the 2/3 power of their weight. If one uses the pertinent formula for maximum human weightlifting ability extrapolated to the weight of the average Sasquatch, it yields a minimum of 1,300 pounds. So the build of a Sasquatch, in parallel with that of the great apes or any hominins, indicates muscle insertions more distal to the joints, with an attendant rise in the mechanical lever arm. This factor, together with presumptive larger muscle cross sections, suggests that its real capability is apt to be much greater than that of man. Their reported ability to pick up, carry, throw 50-gallon drums of diesel fuel, 450 pounds, tip over a commercial trailer, or throw a basketball-sized rocks in a high arc to discourage intruders seems not unreasonable in this light.
Right. That makes perfect sense.
Uh-oh. Everyone keep in mind that if you come across a Sasquatch corpse doubled over in the fetal position, you'll probably find my ex-meatloaf's in the intestinal tract.
Oh, Mick, that's terrible.
So plantar pressure. If one refers to the preceding table of calculated weights, one can extrapolate plantar pressure for feet in different sized individuals. It's been pointed out that compressive strength of cartilage has certain inherent limits that can only be exceeded at the risk of health and joint integrity of the animal in question.
Right.
That makes sense if you think about it. Additionally, compression of the sole beyond the limits of tissue pressure would collapse capillaries, and eventually lead to tissue breakdown. Since any animal is likely to be optimal adapted to its weight, support, and gait configuration, even the Sasquatch would adhere to such general rules of body design.
Yeah.
So the plantar the plantar pressure comparison says that the calculated sole pressure varies from 6 pounds an inch to 12 pounds an inch.
Right.
So,
and that they get into the foot design, and a lot of the ways their feet are designed are made, to carry a heavy frame. And there's a couple of guys over in Edmonton, Kentucky, that I don't know if they're still researching now, but they were finding tracks, and a lot of times the toe imprint was so fine, which means there was not a lot of weight pressed onto the toes, that they were referring to those as moccasin tracks. Mm-hmm. Now, they didn't mean, they weren't inferring that these Bigfoot were wearing shoes,
right.
But no, they had like a front pad and a back pad of their foot, and when they would press down, their toes weren't pressing down and didn't have a lot of pressure on them. And when you think about it, that makes a lot of sense, because when you have toe bones are usually very small. If you had 1,200, 1,400 pound creature and it pressed down forward on those, and then with all its might pushed forward, there'd be a lot of broken toes.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Let me just something here. Brain size. Okay. Yeah. As Ron made a comment, the chimpanzees have the IQ of a 5-year-old child. We had a mountain gorilla that had the sign language of a 10, 12-year-old child. You imagine intelligence of a primate with the brain size of twice that size.
Yeah.
Yes, that's us.
Yeah.
The gorilla's brain size is again the brain capacity of a Sasquatch, at least what he believes compared to a gorilla, is at least a couple hundred or 250 cc's more than that of a gorilla. So yes, I would be more intelligent than a gorilla. I don't know the brain size of a chimpanzee. Somebody wants to Google that one. Google, so I'll just do that real quick.
Well, yeah, but it's really with the brain size. I mean, you can't really depend on something that has a bigger brain. It's automatically going to be smarter. You know, they have to.
It is actually. It does. Well, actually, the human size of a chimpanzee is looks like 384. Well, that's in grams. So. The other one came up really nice in cc's. I don't know why. Compared to like the difference between us and a chimpanzee is about 1,000 more grams in weight. So who knows? That's very, very true. And hello from Moscow, Russia. Hello, welcome.
Is that German or German?
That's
German.
Well, welcome, Mr. Kurtov. We welcome you.
Welcome. Glad to have you. Yeah.
So that was Dr. Fahrenbach's impression of that. Where are we here in this list? Growth and life cycles. He estimated that since all of the data presented here are gender neutral, it is next to impossible to extract values for presumptive sexual dimorphism. Beyond that, we have no idea the age of any animal that has been cited beyond comparing a juvenile one to the age of a corresponding children. Here I have endeavored to apply what minimal data we have to estimate age and growth curve. In this case of the female of the species, I should emphasize that the curve is predicted on the growth of the feet rather than the general somatic dimensions, which would follow a different curve. So, a whale has a larger brain than us, Steve. Somehow I don't think they will do well in algebra. You'd be surprised. They may, but dolphins are incredibly smart too.
Well, I mean, if you just look at humans, okay, you can have a great big guy, 6 or 7 feet tall, and he may have a big head on his shoulders, but he thinks having a good time is hitting a tree with a stick. And then you have people like Stephen Hawking, he was a very small man. Of course, he was sick. Okay. But,
right.
I don't know. I mean, it's true that usually a larger brain will make more intelligence, but not, in each individual. You can't say that.
Well, whales are incredibly smart too, though. Do you remember the story of them finding the dead great white shark? And they were trying to figure out what killed this great white shark. It had been torn apart and eaten. It turned out it was killer whales that did it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you know how they were getting them? You know how they were killing them? One would swim in front to attract the shark, to get him to swim, and a second one would come up and boom, ram them right in the side, crushing their ribs, crushing their internal organs, and that's how they would kill them. And then they would go after them.
They were using hunting behaviors.
That very, very
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's some of this stuff is very interesting. How I'm not going to talk infancy, adulthood, group footprints, nocturnality. The nocturnality of Sasquatch has been questioned on occasion. This rate can be considered from a statistical standpoint. Take a hypothetical area, blah, 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 blah. An actual ratio cited by Green consists of 735 daytime sightings, 58%, and 540 during the night, or 42%, or the ratio of 1.38 to 1. If only sighting on roads are considered, the ratio shifts to 58% in favor of night sightings. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. So what they're saying is when they're out and about going on the roads, it's used 58% of the time is at night.
Yeah. That makes sense too.
And that too, Godzilla, is very true. No matter which side your brain is, you can still be dumber than a pile of rocks.
Yep.
Yes, that is very, very true.
I'm sure the same thing would apply, the same rule as humans have, it would apply to Sasquatches. You might have some Squatches which are really gifted and, really, creative thinkers and stuff. And then you're going to have the other Squatches that, are, banging the rock on the tree,
Well, if I go to some anecdotal stuff, I remember years ago our good friend J.C. Johnson.
Yeah.
And he was talking about a group of sightings they were having in the cornfields in Lower Fruitland on the Navajo reservation. It's called Lower Fruitland.
Right.
And they were seeing these boogers come in once in a while and eating corn. But there was one that he said looked like it had some kind of mental deficiency. It walked. Now, he didn't see it, but it's being reported by multiple people on the reservation.
Right.
That the one in particular kind of had like when they would see its face, it was kind of like drooped or kind of malformed a little bit,
twisted a little bit,
and it walked a little funnier than the rest of them, and it was slower than the rest of them, and it was very slow to react to things. So, but then all of a sudden they stopped seeing it, so it may have died off.
Wow.
So I don't know. There's another interesting thing about feet before I get off the feet topic too. I know we moved on to the brain. Was about the sole of the foot of a Sasquatch is probably several inches thick, and that's very true. I mean I knew somebody that walked barefoot quite a bunch of the time, and their foot was like hard as a rock. And you could see the callousing of the foot, and the sole had padded itself up to be quite thick. So if you walk without shoes from an early age, your feet get used to it after a while.
Yeah.
So and Ron, that's very true. Could be inbred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah.
So but that's interesting because if you think about it, that the roadside sightings occur at nighttime occur 58% of the time versus 42%, during the daylight hours. So that's very very interesting. And even those I would subscribe. I always have a term. I call it Squatch 30, and it's when dusk begins. So it's not quite night yet. It's not really day either. Yeah. And how many times have there been sightings then too? I bet you that would raise, that would be the time when your nocturnal animals start to rustle. So I bet you that would even raise the sightings, another couple of percent over that.
Right.
So,
and if you had more people out in the woods at night, you'd probably have more sightings too.
I agree.
Because that's when they're more active. But your average person doesn't feel like going for a hike at midnight, and I don't either. I don't want to be out there.
Well, the other thing too is that it's not unusual to be loved by. No, that's wrong. That's Tom Jones. I'm sorry. I just had to drop that there.
Not unusual.
OT asked real quick. Well, did I go on my expedition? By the way, no, that's tomorrow. So we'll be departing here with the crew tomorrow at some point in the mid, just before noontime. And off we go to the woods. So for a couple of nights of fun and frolicking. But yeah, it's not unusual to see a Sasquatch in the woods during the day, but it's not unusual to see a nocturnal animal in its habitat. I'll never forget, porcupines are nocturnal animals, and here it is, 11 o'clock in the morning, and there's one tootling along in Vermont. I don't know how many daytime sightings I've seen of porcupines. They're nocturnal animals. There's been daytime sightings of raccoons. There's, I know about dusk where it's not quite nighttime. I've seen foxes, and foxes are nocturnal. So, it happens. And truthfully, a deer has a tapetum lucidum, and hunters go hunting in the daytime and see them in the woods during the day. So their eyes would indicate that they're a nocturnal because they have a tapetum. So.
Right. But you don't shoot one at night.
Mm-hmm. Guys, I had 2 sightings at night and one about 5:45 a.m. Yeah, I truly believe they are nocturnal, and 5:45 a.m. is about the time they're tucking in for the night.
Yeah.
Okay, time to go back to where we go, and this is the information that I have. 20 years I've been hitting the same area where there is some activity. And, I've had years where there was no activity, years where there was some activity, light, and years there was like I said, 2010 through 2013. Those 3 years were like the heaviest activity areas of time that I've had ever up there where I was. And you can tell when the shenanigans start, it's right at dusk. It's still light out, but you can things start to happen. And likewise, usually about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, at least in our area, everything gets really quiet and it's done. It's over with.
I'm curious, Steve, are there any networks of caves in that area in the Adirondacks?
Not in the area that I'm talking about. And like I said, I don't think a Sasquatch would be smart enough to go into a cave only had one opening or not.
Right.
You would think that if they did, because let's face it, gorillas are not cave dwellers.
No.
Neither are chimpanzees. And let's remind people that they're very close to, and they're on the hominidae chart. So we did that last week. So when we talk about great apes, we're also talking about us as well.
Right.
The only folks that, on those scales, really, there are some species of monkeys that live in caves, I believe, but I don't think there's too many great apes that live in caves. Think about it. It's, I don't know. It just, to me, the forest floor and given their body structure, they're not prone to like sleeping in rocky, damp, areas. And yes, it may have that cover, but you go into a cave, it gets a lot cooler. So it's not necessarily more environmentally friendly. When us as humans were in a cave, or our ancestors were in caves, we built fire. That fire warms the cave. Yeah. So a big difference there.
The thing, if you got a hairy body and it's 100 degrees outside, that cave's still pretty good in the summertime.
Yeah. But I don't think they would. One would think, and it only makes sense. It's kind of like the burying. They bury their bodies. Well, if they buried their bodies, like especially in upstate New York or wherever they've been here, or places in the Pacific Northwest, which have turned into suburbs and cities of other places, don't you think we would be finding some of their bones?
Well, I don't know.
We would, because what happens is burying removes predation on the remains. So without the predation on the remains, we would be digging them up like we do the Aboriginal Native Americans, Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, all of them buried their dead, and we find them.
Well, here's the thing, it's not really that far-fetched to go out in the woods and not find bones of a man. But we do know that there were Native Americans here before us.
Yep.
There were early settlers, wherever they buried, and I'm sure they buried their dead. And, we're not finding those bones either.
Yep.
So it's not really out of the question that we wouldn't find Sasquatch bones.
I mean, I'll tell you what, living in upstate New York, they're finding colonial bodies all the time that they have to stop and call in the historians, and they have to check it on more hands than I can count. So I do see that happening, including Native American sites here in New York. It depends how they're documented. If the areas where there's tribes and that are still in existence,
right,
which are the Midwest and the Northwest and the Dakotas and stuff like that, the tribes are still in existence. They know where their burial mounds are, so they avoid digging around them. But we have a lot of Native American tribes that have gone extinct, basically, or disappeared from the earth, where we don't know where their burying grounds were. Right. And then, we come across them. So that's why there may be a little bit of differential. I know in Kentucky there was Cherokee, I believe.
Yeah.
So
we had all kinds of Native Americans here.
Yeah. So I think that's that.
Sometimes those bones are found in caves here, and the mummified bodies have been found in caves.
Right, exactly, and like I say, in caves, who knows? They might have protected them. They may have visited them, but the only time you find bones in caves is usually of animals that have been preyed upon. That usually a cat or a bear or some other, or a canid had taken. Went into the cave to eat in peace. Yeah. To me, caves, if they were in caves, some hunter somewhere would have come along and cornered some. Again, they may inhabit caves if they have more than one opening.
Well, see, that's the thing. I think that they would use them for a Motel 6. If they're passing through the area and the weather's rough, they see a cave. Okay, let's go in there.
Yeah.
But not okay, let's go in there and live there for the rest of our lives. No, I don't think they're going to do that, because they seem to be nomadic, if anything. I don't think they'll stay in one particular area for a length of time.
So Ron Bowles wants to get in. We don't have a call-in line, Ron, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to skeeter over to Facebook real quick, and I'm going to send you the show link. How about that? So just give me one quick second. Actually,
cool.
We'll get Ron to come on, because
check out the Beast of Brushy Creek. Oh, that's interesting. Obstruct.
Okay, so the invitation, that's how quick we got that done. He's already got the invitation on the way, and that's what I love about
this format. Yeah, it's great. I love it. And B says, Tim here.
Well, Timothy says, for me, Bigfoot doesn't, well, they do and they don't. And the reason why, no, actually, well, let me answer. Let me go in order here. So, number one, they do give a thing about weather, not necessarily rain or whatever. If they lose their food source, for example, if they're feeding on, say, something that is seasonal, when the weather hits that causes that animal to move on, they're going to move on. It's very well known that primates do not migrate unless there is either a very extreme weather problem or a food source issue. So I think they do move. And what I see is, and you're right, I don't think they care about weather, summer, spring, but what it is that in New York, the forest, the area that I work in, the reason why we have, spring, summer, the end of fall, and a little bit of the beginning of winter, or almost to winter, is because of the coverage of the foliage, versus the pine forest. And over on the New York side, we have pine, pine, birch, and oak. They all drop their leaves. There's no cover. So they're pretty naked and exposed. So it seems like in December, everything kind of peters out, on the New York side, and things start to pick up on the Vermont side, which you have all the fir trees from the Green Mountain State Forest. Now, there are parts of the Adirondacks that do have lots of pine forest, and most of New York, most of the Adirondacks, I believe, is pine. But there are parts on the outskirts that are very much, especially around the Lake George, Lake Champlain area on the eastern side. There are a lot of that. So the next, wouldn't you have a lot of small critters feeding on bones if Sasquatch buried their deads? No, because the critters, you would have more of them feeding on the bones if you didn't. Because there they are. They're just out there. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Predation by you got to think about the animals that eat bone: bears, raccoon, fox, hogs, possums. They all go after bones. They chew the bones for the calcium. They chew their bones like a dog chews the bones. So there he is. There he is, Mr. Ron. Hello.
Welcome, Ron.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Sorry, I'm a little technically slow. Sort of like that inbred squatch that was being observed.
Yeah, you very well could have been inbred. Yep, I agree.
Well, I am from Arkansas. Anyway.
Well, we have a county in New York, Schoharie County. Family trees out there only have one branch. But anyway.
Sort of like a coconut. Hey, there was a couple of things that I was like, I want to say something, but damn, my fingers were getting tired. You were about the cave thing. I know where you're going with that. I've heard this theory time and time again, how they believe the Squatches, have a subterranean highway, if you will, throughout the fruited plain. And to me, that's a little reaching for it.
Mm-hmm. I agree, because look at their hands.
Exactly.
Their hands are not made for digging. Our hands are not made for digging. Not deep or deep and rock and stuff like that.
But,
no, I don't subscribe to the idea that they have their own interstate underground. No, but I do believe that some of them will actually use caves.
They may for temporary, or if they have a second opening. It's funny because there was a cave I looked at in the. Oh, that's an interesting picture.
I'm
he set his phone
dizzy.
down.
I'm getting dizzy.
Now, when Ron gets back, we'll get him back. Oh, there he's back.
Sorry, I had to say goodbye to my granddaughter.
Oh, that's okay. I think they, for example, when I went down to the Farmington, New Mexico area, a lot of desert.
Beautiful area. Area.
Well, we went out there, and of course, that's not too far from the Wichita Mountains or the Chusca Mountains, which both have been very well researched. I've actually done research on Lucachucas and the Carritos. So what I think is happening is that, here we have this cave, and the funny thing is we pull in and it looked like there was a 7-foot body impression that had laid down in the dirt or in the sand that left the impression. Of course, it's the desert, a lot of it, but it's really weird because, I remember doing a little video. I don't have that video anymore, but I did a little video on desert survival, and everywhere you went, there were desert carrots. You see these little sprouts I pull up, and there'll be a little carrot on there. I just take my water bottle, wash it off, eat it. It was the sweetest carrots I'd ever eaten. And there's also onions out there too. Sporadically, you would find onions. Well, anyway, here's this thing laying in there, and there was the cave top of the hill. We go up into the cave, and there's another opening on the other side of the cave. But this cave is huge. I mean, huge. So you can easily get out the other way. So it's a kind of cave that I don't think is a dead end. I think that, like the bone thing, if Sasquatch lived in caves, if that was their primary residence, we would be finding them, because they have, once somebody gets to the mouth of that cave, there's nowhere for them to go.
Well, around here in the Ozarks, they have the local legend of the Blue Man of the Ozarks, and one of the news stories. I mean, this thing made news stories of the rash of sightings and stuff. And one of the stories were that that a bunch of the locals out there in Howell and Douglas County decided to try to hunt down this one, and they finally tracked it down to a cave. Mm-hmm. And they went to and they went started to go inside the cave, and of course they found bones of sheep and livestock and deer and what have you. And they think they've actually found it and actually cornered it in the cave. Except one problem: there was a back door.
Right. Exactly.
And sure enough, the thing took off through the back door.
Right.
I mean, does that lead me to believe that, they will take advantage of structures like that? But I do not. I believe that, talking about their intelligence, they are intelligent enough to not get cornered.
Right.
And if you get yourself into a cave, I mean, it's hard enough for a regular human size to get around in a cave. Can you imagine, the size capacity of a Squatch?
Right.
The other issue you were bringing up about how we find a Native American skeletal remains.
Yes.
On certain tribes.
Yep. Exactly.
Because certain tribes didn't bury their dead.
Yep.
Certain tribes actually built up little, how you want to call them, edsels or like little bunk beds, if you will, out there, and that's how they put the body on there. For, of course, the birds and what have you to be scavenged, and
right.
the body to decay until it went to the four corners of the winds.
Yep.
So it just really depends on the the Plain Indians. You'll be hard pressed you would be hard pressed to find skeletal remains.
Right.
Of the Plain Indians, because they didn't bury their dead.
Yep.
It just depends. It just depended on the tribe.
Yeah. Now there was another thing floating around here about eating their dead. Now, yes, there are some primates that do, but they're very few, and it's a cultural thing. Like you won't see all, because from what all I talk about primate behavior, and hominins, of course, are primates. So.
Yeah.
Hey, humans do it too.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
Guru. That's for eating
but
dead.
it's very but primates
with
have
fava beans.
They get really touchy about eating their own, let alone eating. They're more likely to eat their own than they are eating other primates.
Actually, there's only one. There's only one primate, far as chimpanzees and apes, that are known for eating,
their
own, and that's chimpanzees.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
and
those
they don't.
Chimpanzees are hateful. I mean, they're not cute; they're hateful.
Yeah,
and they're very well known for cannibalism.
And Abstract P says Native American places equal Sasquatch. I agree. I mean, if you think about it, Native Americans were everywhere in this continent, 400 years ago. So. Timmy Boy, welcome, and welcome Obstruck as well. Welcome aboard. So, but yeah, there's another thing too. There was a question off the topic here. That wasn't OT writes wasn't there in the siege of Albia where one was killed and the other Bigfoots dragged him off? I don't think so. I think that was they shot a deer and it dragged the deer off.
Well, now the siege of Hanabi, they did. It was mentioned how one of them was shot.
Okay.
How the other Squatches helped, carry him off.
Okay, not unusual. Chimpanzees will do that too.
Mm-hmm.
That's been reported in Kentucky too. One was shot, more came out and dragged it away.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't know what they did with it.
I often wondered if, and I mean, then this is far fetched, shot in the dark, but I often wonder if they don't stick their dead up in the trees.
Yeah, I think somebody would run across them at one point in time, or the bones, because I really think that they may eat some, but their bones are left behind. And if that's the case, then guess what happens? All your critters come in and grab those bones.
Well, does a porcupine eat skeletal remains?
Huh?
Does a porcupine eat skeletons?
Yeah.
Not sure.
Porcupines eat skeletons. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, they all eat bones. They chew on bones. I know raccoons do and possums do. So being part of that particular rodenta genus, I believe they probably would eat bone as well.
Yeah. Well, that's how they get a lot of their calcium in order to grow their quills.
Right.
And porcupines are very well known about climbing up trees.
Yeah.
No, we're stuck with some interesting questions about these creatures because number one, for me personally, I know they exist. I've seen them. I know they exist. So what are they doing with the bodies? Okay. And now, if they were burying them, there's a good chance we could have found one by now. So
more than likely, because we found everything else that has been buried in the ground of North America, we have found.
We found it. If it's not likely to find one every day, but surely one would have been found by now. So we don't really know what they do, but if they would have buried it, seemed like we would have found one by now. Right. If they hide them in caves, we would have found one by now because everybody loves. I used to be the same way. Right. When I was a kid, man, if I found a new cave, I was in there. I loved it. But so we don't think they're burying them. We don't think they're hiding them in caves. So that really leaves some creepy alternatives here.
I don't think it's creepy at all.
Consider.
I don't know. I just the simplest explanation is like any other creature. They go to a remote place. They pass, and Mother Nature takes care of it. I mean, you look at the body farm in Tennessee. They had that deer. They did the study on it. Was within 2 weeks there was not a trace of it.
Yeah, and I've been asked this question many a times on radio shows, and local news. They said, "Why have we found a skeleton remain?" And the simple fact of the matter is, when's the last time a naturally deceased bear or a naturally deceased mountain lion has been found in the middle of the woods, and there it is.
Yep.
Now, the population of a bear or a mountain lion, or especially deer, are probably 10 times, if not 20 times more than the population of the North American great ape.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order to find a skeletal remain of such a scarce population of primate in the woods, left to its own design, being scavenged and just let the forest eat the body, if you will, then odds are you are not going to find that skeletal remain. I mean, it's hard enough to find deer, bears, or mountain lion. Why do you think you're going to find something that's population is 10 times more scarce?
Mm. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people come up with a lot of complicated explanations, and I think the simplest one is the most likely one. They just drop and Mother Nature takes it. It's as simple as that. No need to overcomplicate things. We want to have, this. The reason why we started burying our dead was twofold. It was one, so they stopped predation on bodies. It would bring in things that were unwanted. If you live in the forest, you're there. We did it because we didn't. We may have lived in the forest, but we wanted the animals out, the bad animals out. The other thing is we wanted to preserve the bodies.
Well, there's been several reports though.
You don't want to sit there and walk out of your house. Oh, there goes Uncle Louie. He died 2 years ago. Yeah.
There's been several reports though, Steve, of people actually shooting a creature and other ones taking the body.
Entirely possible.
Now, okay, let's look at it this way. Let's say most of those are lies. They're just made up stories. Let's just call it like it is. You can't verify it. What if one is true? One time a creature was shot and they dragged the body away. Now, I happen to believe there's a very credible episode that happened here in Kentucky with something similar to that happening. And there was reported that the creatures had dragged it away. So they did not want to leave that body there.
Yep. Timmy Boy just reported back that there are about 30 million deer in North America. I don't think there's that many people in Rhode Island.
I don't know. I think there's that many in Kentucky. There's a lot of deer around here.
Yeah,
Arkansas too.
And in Missouri, believe me. Come rutting season, they're all in the middle of the road. Trust me.
Yeah.
So Pat says, I think there's virtually zero chance we would have found properly buried Bigfoot. Too much randomness in remote areas. But that's how the world is now. I mean, look where I live. 200 years ago, this place was remote. This was nothing but forest. This was remote. So the body still would have been there. The bones still would have been buried. Albany was settled in the 1600s, but yet they're still finding bones from 1700s even.
Yeah.
The remoteness is a frame of reference right now. It's hard to believe, but 300 years ago, there were no cities. This place was nothing but forest. So we got to kind of think in context. We think of context as remoteness as for what it is today. But I'm talking about, why didn't we dig the bones up 100 years ago, 200 years ago, where, hey, science actually would have made a big deal about it and not try to poo-poo it.
Right.
Somebody asked about the giant skeletons in Minnesota. I have no idea, but I know they've been tested and they're not anything abnormal other than their size.
Yeah. There's some giant. There's been some giant skeletal remains in Arkansas
and Oklahoma.
Just like Andre the Giant.
Yep.
Whatever they call it. When
gigantism. Yep.
Gigantism.
Yep.
That is an inherited trait.
Yep.
I mean, Andre the Giant's grandfather was a giant too. Mm-hmm. Now, let's say that a good share of Andre the Giant's family was buried in one plot in France.
Yep.
And let's say that 1,000 years from now, anthropologists come along this grave site and goes, "My God, look at all these large people that used to live there."
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, it's hard saying on that issue. Now, you were also talking about what the law.
Okay, time for the laugh. Of course, provided by Mick. My ex's mother is proof positive that we're primates. She's got more hair on her back than George the Animal Steel, and she always looked at me like I was a serving of prime rib.
Oh no!
Did she have a green tongue?
Oh yeah.
Oh, Mick, that's terrible, man. You remind me of those old Yo Mama jokes. Yo Mama so hairy, Bigfoot takes pictures of her.
That's
Oh, okay. I pissed off my mother-in-law one time. We were at some benefit and that she's part of, and one of the guys that was helping was, "Can I help you, sir?" I said, "No, I'm so-and-so's son-in-law." "Oh, you are? Well, your mother-in-law is an absolute treasure." And I said, "Yeah, and there's been a time or two when I wanted to bury her too." But
oh, Ron. Oh, man.
Oh, it was all fun.
Well, Ron, have you guys got any? Has there been any sightings lately in Arkansas? Anything recent?
The Ozarks? Not really. I mean, hell, we've all been like everybody else. We've been cooped up. State parks and federal parks have been closed up.
Yeah.
So they just opened up some camping and stuff. And you know what? During the summertime, it is so hot. It is so humid. You can't hear it because all the peepers and the cheepers and the bugs and stuff.
Right.
And the air is just thick.
Yeah.
You can't hear yourself think. The white noise is just deafening.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why I always look forward to the fall.
Yeah, me too. Around here, it's the same thing, Ron. It seemed like during the summer months, the sightings drop off. You know, and you might have the odd one or two maybe, but usually they're not really active that much during the summer.
Well, and I have
but
about that because the vegetation is more plentiful that time of year. They don't need to move around and forage. The vegetation is right there for the taking.
Right.
They place and they find their edible veggies and they sit back and they gorge.
Yeah.
Now let me make an interesting observation. Pat makes a good point. The fossil record's incomplete. There's still a lot we haven't found yet. Very true.
Right.
It's no surprise that to me, the Bigfoot remains from 200 years ago haven't been found yet. To me, not so. And the reason why is because where have the major hominin, pre-human discoveries, where have they all been made in the last 50 years?
In Africa.
In Africa, because that's where we originated from Africa.
Mm-hmm. They're right.
Huh?
They're right.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Africa, and there's some parts of Asia Minor, which is where Homo erectus was, and there was some merging of the Homo and the Homo sapiens and the Homo erectus. So my point being is you want to talk about remoteness? Look at Africa. That's really remote. There's a lot of spots that have not been dug up. And there's spots in North America, but we know, the bottom line is the fossil record, it makes sense because that's where we all started. So that's why we're finding all the new stuff there.
Finding those fossil records, they're finding it in like the Sierras and the areas where it's so dry and arid but I guarantee you're not going to find a fossil remain of anything in the Congo.
Right. There's allegedly originated. You know what? There's a lot smarter people than you or I that have figured that out. I
ain't got no letters behind my name.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about you, Ron. There's a comment that was made that allegedly originated from Africa. You know what? I don't have a PhD behind my name, neither you do, but there's a bunch of them. Not just one or two either. I'm talking about several hundred that believe that, have looked at the evidence of that. So I have no reason to and I'm not big into conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theories are only true about 3% of the time. The rest is just internet propaganda. We're star children and all this other crazy stuff.
Well, if you give people this, I mean, the amount of scientists has basically processed our entire evolution as mankind with enough skeletal remains that wouldn't barely fit in a suitcase.
Yeah.
So they sell us a lot of things. Science today sell us a lot of things as what they consider as fact, when really they don't have their fact is based on theory, based on what little evidence they can provide. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it sounds like the Bigfoot community. And the other thing is where have the oldest human remains been found? In Africa. So, you can't argue that. Carbon dating has been around for years, and it's not questioned. So,
the oldest cave drawing found.
Well, proof of origin. David says, "I'm not into conspiracies or religion either." But proof of origin is just a theory, not a fact. But the fact is the oldest relatives of us were found in Africa. They weren't found here, and like I said, we've dug up a lot of here. We've dug up a lot of Europe. We've dug up parts of Asia. What's left that we haven't dug up? There's really three: Australia, Asia, parts of Asia. I mean, think about China. Most of China is not city. It's around the coastal areas where their cities are, and then there's a few here and there. Siberia, there's another area that you don't find a lot. If you look at the immensity of the planet, they're not finding things there. They're finding them in Africa. Why Africa? Why is the oldest one found there? Why don't we find any on the coasts of China? Why don't we find them on the coast? I mean, yes, there are some ancient humans they found in England, but they're not as old as the ones in Africa. And remember, this was all squished.
A lot of these places that we consider
the Pangea. Yep.
Most of it was.
Mick made a good point too, is that the Bauman incident mentioned the Sasquatch they believed to have shot was taken away by others as the Bauman incident. It was the Bauman.
I think he's probably thinking about the Ape Canyon incident.
I think, you're talking about Fred Beck.
Yeah.
No, the Bauman incident was where the two trappers
yeah.
The night before, the Squatches got brave enough. They started hanging around just outside the ring of the firelight, and they shot one because it got too close, and the other ones dragged it away. And then the next day, they decided to pull up camp. He got stalled and came back to the camp and found his partner dead. That was the one that was reported by second source by Theodore Roosevelt.
Hang on. How are you? Sometimes we do come prepared. What I have here.
That is in the Wilderness Hunter, I believe, and I've got that book somewhere.
Yeah, that's the one where one of the trappers ended up dead.
Yeah. I think the other incident was the Ape Canyon. They supposedly shot one that fell off of a ledge or something, and they couldn't see down in there and couldn't recover the body or something. It was so far down. But I'm sure if they shot one and there was a body, I'm sure the other creatures there dragged it away. And that was the same thing, that I got a report in Kentucky in '93, which I believe is very credible, because these guys actually thought they'd shot one, and they hired a winch truck to go in there and pull the body out, to winch the body out because it was so heavy they couldn't move it, the two of them.
Yeah.
And when they came back, there was blood spot and drag marks and other tracks. So these rascals had come there after they left and dragged the body away. And, it was kind of funny, you hear about it, you think, well, gosh, that's a really off the cuff, odd made up story that somebody just telling to have some fun. And I was thinking the same thing. But the thing was, I knew this guy, and he was a very credible person. And he had to pay the winch truck guy in advance to go up there. He would not have done that had he had been telling a story. Why waste your money just to add, relevant facts to a story? I don't think so. No.
Part of the story of the siege of Honneby, that when it was on the front porch,
right,
they shot at it and wounded it or something like that, and other Squatches helped it back into the woods.
Right.
I don't know if it was shot and killed, but it was helped. It was helped back into the woods by other Squatches.
Yeah. See, I'm just reading over the Bauman incident.
Mm-hmm.
There was no shots fired.
Not the night previous.
No, I'm reading the entire account. They had heard some stuff the previous evening. I'm like, where is this coming from? There was a TV show that had added this gunfight in there. I'm like, in all my readings, they had They had come back the first night and they saw some prints, possibly of human. He fired his rifle at the vague, threatening shadow, but it must have missed. For immediately afterwards, he heard the smashing of the underwood as the thing, whatever it was, rushed off into the impenetrable blackness of the forest in the night.
Right.
It was not shot. It was not dragged off by other, because they never mentioned it was a Sasquatch in the whole thing.
Yeah.
They see this human-like, they see shadows, they see a human-like track, but they never see it. They never mention the word Bigfoot or Sasquatch or hairy man beast or anything. So what happens is this part is they were looking at midnight. Bauman was awakened by some noise and sat up in his blankets.
Yeah.
As he did so, his nostrils were struck by a strong wild beast odor, and he caught the gloom of a great body in the darkness at the mouth of the lean-to. Grasping his rifle, he fired at the vague, threatening shadow, but must have missed. For immediately afterwards, he heard the smashing of the underwood as the thing, whatever it was, rushed off into the impenetrable blackness of the forest night. So he never, there was not anyone ever carried off in the Bauman story.
Yeah.
There was a shot taken at it.
Maybe
I think that was, they're probably thinking about the Ape Canyon is what I'm thinking.
It's kind of a mishmashing of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably thinking of the Hollywood version then.
Right. And there was an airing on the I forget one of the news shows, and they had it shooting it, and him having this big battle with it after he found the friend dead to escape from it, and I'm going, this is not real. This is not. So I stopped watching the show. That's why I don't even remember the name. I'm like, well, this show is just adding Hollywood into their stories, and
they've added a little bit of. A little bit of action to go with it.
So I think it was OT said that no, there was no Bigfoot dragged off. He took a shot, but there was not. So that's why, because I that was one of the earlier. I mean, when I got into this, I started by reading the classics, and I may not refer to each one by little details, but I know that the general idea. And according to Beck, he shot one and it fell into the canyon.
Fell into a canyon. That's right. They couldn't recover it because it was so far down.
Right.
That's probably what they were thinking of.
But I knew Bauman had taken a shot, but I never recall him seeing more than one creature. In fact, they didn't really actually clear out and out see it. They saw the footprints. They smelled the odor. But
that's what I remember, that on the Bauman incident, it was moving on two legs, but they never actually got a clear visual sighting, other than it by the.
Interesting in how these beings use technology. Okay, let's get off the paranormal Bigfoot. Bigfoot is not paranormal, folks. It's not smart. It's not like us. Okay, let's get off that.
Well, the category is, it's on in the paranormal category on Blog Talk.
People ask me, do you think that the Bigfoot is smarter than us? And I said, no. And they go, how come? I said, we got better dental coverage.
Yeah, true. Well, if you think about it, why would you walk around a forest with ticks and stuff? You don't have pockets to carry this technology, right? I mean, where would you carry it? Why don't we ever see them using any tools? Why don't we see them, come on. It's fantasy. These people are living in fantasy land.
Matt Moneymaker actually made a compelling argument that probably one of the highest of their mortality reason for their mortality rate is not because of predation or anything like that, but parasite and tooth decay.
Yeah.
Apparently possible. Yeah. I mean, entirely possible. Parasites are horrible, but I do believe they have some immunities to some of the things we have, because if you think about it, the reason why humans have become very exposed to different types of things like viruses is because, think about it, the way we live, we have access to antibacterials, and people are getting sicker. And it's funny, like 100 years, it's very interesting, that whole line of thought. But when you don't expose yourself at a young age to like different bacteria and viruses, you don't build an immunity to them, and then you can be really struck very hard.
Well,
but then you have what happened to the Native Americans with smallpox.
Yeah.
So there are certain things that could decimate a Sasquatch as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, for my guess, is as good as any. So
like that new tick-borne virus that, you get bit and you become allergic to red meat. Hell, that right there is enough to for me to take a long trip off of a short cliff.
I know.
I mean,
God.
Wait, you take away my ability to eat a good T-bone steak, and that's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
Well, there would be some things, though. You would. I stand corrected, yeah. But there would be some things, though, that on the dental thing, they could end up dying. I think what they call it, a dental death, when their teeth get so bad
but
that they can't eat anymore.
But let's think about this too. Is if their primary diet is leaves, grasses, maybe some berries, the only time they're getting anything that can attack their tooth enamel is maybe if they eat berries or some of that acid. The reason why humans have such tooth decay is because we are refined sugar addicts.
Right. Yeah, they don't have exposure to much
carbs.
sugar.
We eat a ton of carbs, and guess what? Carbs break down. They start breaking up in the mouth, and that it breaks into sugar, and then that affects your teeth as well. Don't I know it?
I'm not talking about just going toothless,
right?
Or I'm talking about even an abscess tooth.
Oh yeah.
It gets in the bloodstream. I've known healthy grown men dying because of that.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's really hard to say what they're, because we have no records to study. But strangely enough, and now that's kind of an interesting thing. What's the tooth decay process on a gorilla or a chimpanzee? Because they would live similarly to a Sasquatch. And that would make sense that they would kind of, if they're all primates, so they would kind of run parallel to their rate of decay and stuff like that.
You bring that up, Steve. I was watching it was on, I was on National Geographic. They were doing an actual show about mountain gorillas, and the apex mountain gorilla, the old silverback, was being his position was being threatened by his own son, a younger gorilla.
Right.
And the thing is, the younger gorilla ended up killing its father, but not by violence. He would never. They never got into a full-blown, knockout, drag-out fight.
Right.
He never let his older father settle down and rest. His older father always had to. Get up and move to another spot so they wouldn't get into a big old confrontation. You know what happened to the older gorilla? He died of heart failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that is the most diabolical thing I've ever heard. He wore the old man out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's another interesting thing. OT says, don't forget water has parasites which can compromise the critter out there. And water can have other things too, like PCBs and pollution and radiological drains, depending on where they're floating around. And then B made a good point. Don't I know this too, that tooth decay and teeth issues are also an heredity thing as well.
Right.
And some folks. OT says, what a crafty bugger, death by no sleep. Yeah.
That's terrible, but that's nature.
Yeah. Not only that, but I do believe that a Sasquatch has kind of an immunity towards salmonella or E. coli or anything like that. I'm pretty like
heartworms or just your basic parasites that gets into your system.
Yeah. Yeah. But like E. coli and salmonella, because a Sasquatch eats raw food. I mean, raw foods, as did we. I mean, that was the whole basis of the original Atkins diet, was basically going down back to almost like a prehistoric dinner, but after we just started cooking food and, meats and proteins, and our body processed meats and proteins very efficiently. And, people that were eating, that went on this diet, that they weren't eating carbs. They were, I forget what they call it, going in ketosis maybe or whatever, but no, that's a keto diet. But the folks, they were eating bacon and eggs and bacon and more bacon and meat and meat and meat.
Sign me up.
And after a month, they found their cholesterol was going down, that the body was taking over and remembering how to process all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason why that diet. So people lost a lot of weight, because there was no, carb is a very slow breakdown type of food. That's why we're, as humans, and we're all that way, we have a little bit of flab, because we're carb rich now. If you look at people, a couple hundred years ago, they were a lot leaner. Yes, there were some portly ones, but usually they were the upper class who, had plenty of these, decadent items, such as breads and, elegant breads and, truffles and all that fun stuff. So you think about that, why haven't you got any obese chimpanzees? Because they have their own diet, and it negates that carbohydrate stuff. They're eating grasses and leaves and meat.
Well, when you throw away the stuff like the processed foods and stuff that we have now every day as common thing, like the cookies and the bread and the sugary drinks, we love all that stuff, and it's common. That's why I'm overweight. Okay, I know it, but that's okay, because I love that stuff. But now, if you start drinking water, you start eating vegetables and some meat, and leave off the breads and stuff, you're gonna start dropping down on weight.
Yeah,
and you can do that. Change your diet. I could change my diet and lose weight, but unfortunately, I like to drink my ski. And I do like to eat a sandwich every now and then. So,
Yeah. Believe it or not, you can have a balance of carbohydrate. I mean, you think about it when fruits have sugars in them, which are carb, the same effect as carbohydrates. So, yeah, if you have a very, rich fruit diet, you may get a little portly, but fructose breaks down the bodies differently than your glucose. Yeah. So yeah,
and there's times of years that I'm sure that the Squatches take opportunity. I mean, blackberries, mountain bear, all sorts of mountain berries and stuff like that. Y'all were talking about how the bears, they're omnivores. Right. Have you ever heard about the need that the brown bears or the grizzly bears, they actually on moths, the dangest thing, that there is a period of time where where bears sort of congregate along these cliffs and mountainsides, and they're digging in, and they're always digging into the side of the mountain to eat, because these moths are come. They come from their larvae or whatever, mm-hmm. and the bear has actually used that as a good chunk of their intake. Moths,
moths, honey. I mean, look at the sugars in honey.
Yes,
that'll put it. So, well, we're winding down the show, but you actually said something that kind of reminded me of something. It was sighting reports that I took in 2008 or 2007, 2008 in the Catskills. And this family had seen these things, around their property over a course of, a few weeks. It was getting pretty constant, and then they kind of dissipated. As it turned out, right nearby, there was a mountain side of blackberry bushes.
Yes.
And it seemed like they were attracted to come into those blackberry bushes and get the berries. Then you look at the pigeon video with the thing swinging in the background. That place was loaded with wild berries. You look at, the sightings in Whitehall around the apple orchards. So yeah, they have to be opportunists, and the amazing thing about that Catskill story is that I actually talked to a 6-year-old girl who had seen it out the window, and I asked her, "What'd you see?" "I saw a big monkey," is how she described it. And it was just kind of standing there, and it kind of just ambled on off.
Oh yeah, I got a witness that he's become a friend over the years. He called me up. It was about 2 years ago. I mean, he was pissed off. He grew about 3 peach trees, and they finally got to the age. They had some beautiful peaches. He was ready to harvest them, and overnight, every one of those peaches, and I'm not talking about the ones laying low. I'm talking every one of those were gone.
Yeah.
And he was fit to be tied. I was pissed off. And he goes, "How the hell did they take off with all those peaches?"
Right.
I said, "One at a time."
So they're probably picking them off the tree and putting them in their mouth, probably.
Where there's a few of them.
Yeah, more than one.
But he said all 3 of those all those peach trees, and I'm talking the ones that were good, 8, 10 feet up in the air, was picked clean.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Overnight.
We have that same problem in Kentucky with peach trees and apple trees. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people will plant a small apple orchard near their home, within sight of their home. And they'll find that on the side of the house that's facing away from the house, one side of the tree will be bare and the other side will still have fruit on it. Yep. And the trees that are planted not within sight of the house, oh man, they're just gone. You go out there and there might have been fruit the night before, and then the next day there's nothing but leaves on that tree. It's gone. All the fruit's been picked.
You have to understand, if somebody has a Sasquatch hanging around the house for a small period of time, you have to ask yourself why. And what I found is usually there's some food source nearby that they want this. And hey, I remember one of my first reports I ever took was out in Fulton County, New York, and it was within a couple hundred yards of the city dump.
Yeah.
So imagine, at nighttime, one of those things walking into a dump and trying to find food, or that's entirely possible, or finding something of interest in there. Who knows? They're opportunists. We know they toss camps.
Steve, if I may, I'll leave you with one a little story. An old friend of mine, his name was Bill Buning. He passed away a couple of years ago, but for years he was telling me about this one spot that he would park his vehicle, in the afternoon and during the wintertime. And he always covered himself with horse blankets and used horse blankets, and watch these lanes come out and about. And for years, and he says, and you won't believe where it is. You won't believe it is. But he wouldn't take me to where it was until finally one night he finally took me there. And he says, "You're not going to believe it." And he took me where he parked his truck. And sure enough, there was forest land all around this elementary school. And of course, around the elementary school, it was cleared out, and the with the playground and stuff. But all around it was forest land. And he goes, "Now, why would they hang around so close to a school like that?" And I said, "Bill, don't you understand?" I said, "This is free bread and circus.
Yeah.
This is easy food and entertainment.
Yeah.
They want the kids and stuff during the day, and at night, man, they go dumpster diving.
Yeah.
And get in all that stuff those kids won't eat."
Yeah. How much fruit gets thrown away? How much, vegetables get thrown away?
Yeah, or the free meat of Tuesday.
Yeah. Exactly. So,
you would think that they would be like repelled by noise, but as it turns out, they're actually attracted to it. And the noises that children make. Years ago, 2010, I'm out on a hike with my wife and my 5-year-old son, and he's making so much racket, laughing, yelling, having a good time. And I'm thinking, if there's any Sasquatches within a 3-county area, they will be gone. You know, I have no opportunity whatsoever.
Malarkey.
Sure enough, like, 15 minutes later, I hear a noise and look over. Oh, there's one right there. 25, 30 feet away. And so they were actually brought in by all that noise rather than repelled by it. And,
like a music festival.
Yeah, it does kind of make you kind of wonder, though. Of course, I was armed, but I had some creepy feelings about it. Why was that thing interested in my son? Was it thinking, oh, look at the little one, oh, isn't he cute? Or was he thinking, boy, if I can get that little one away from them parents, that'll be some good eating,
Well,
I think it's sort of like us seeing baby chimpanzees or baby apes. Oh,
we are just about out of time. Let me just take a couple of quick comments here in the chat. I suspect Sasquatch's health would decline if it ate a human diet. That system wouldn't be accustomed to many of the foods we eat. Agreed. I think that their scavenging is not a constant thing. I think that, let me give you a good example. OT made eating school lunches. It's got to be tough out there. I know we all have eaten that square looking pizza. Here's the interesting thing. In the last little story before we have to sign off, but in Monsters of the Northwoods, Bruce Hallenbeck's grandmother, who was having a lot of activity around her property, the whole area known as the Kinderhook creature was going on. I mean, everybody was seeing, they were hearing it, they were seeing it, they were seeing shadows running in their driveways as they were pulling in. They were seeing it walking along a road and darting into the brush. Well, his grandmother had seen these things, so he removed the bird feeder and he put some food up there, and he put some fruits at first, and they disappeared. Put some vegetables up there, they disappeared. Then he got a little creative. Okay, I'm going to put a steak up there, and the steak disappeared. Next, I'm going to put some chicken, and the chicken was gone. Then he said, well, I'm going to get a little crafty. I'm going to put a pizza up there, and he put a box pizza up there. And the next morning, he found the pizza box in the yard, and he opened it up, and the pizza was still there. Didn't like the pizza. Because it was too foreign to them.
Yeah.
You can bait it with stuff it knows, beef and meat and stuff like that. It's like trying to bait, and this is one of my big arguments, people trying to bait a Sasquatch in New York State with oranges.
Right.
You don't know what the hell an orange is. They don't see them. You got to kind of think locally when you're trying to bait anything. Try to think locally.
See, that's when I made that mistake, Steve. I was thinking, oh, man, what do primates like? Well, the chimpanzees, they loved oranges, so I'll bet you these things will love oranges too. And you put it out there on the exact spot where they're at, and it stays there. They never touch it.
Yeah, even the local animals won't touch it because they don't know what it is.
Right. Yeah. What is that? I don't know. It smells nice, but I'm not eating that.
Not to nature.
Yeah. Well, folks, we got to blow out of here because tomorrow I'm on expedition for a couple of nights. Yeehaw. So,
come on.
Thanks, Ron.
Oh, no problem at all, Ron. Thanks for coming on, my brother. Right. And from all of us here at Squatch-D TV, we want to wish everybody a safe, healthy, happy week. Thanks, everybody, for your participation. Chris, you want to do your subscribe thing?
Oh, yeah. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps us out, please. We need you. Thanks.
And by the way, Chris,
4th of July.
By the way, Chris,
but
we breached our 1,000th subscriber.
All right, dude. Can we start putting links in the videos now? Hopefully,
not yet. Not yet. Now I'm just waiting on YouTube to go. Okay, you're monetized, or you can join the platform. Where you can monetize. You can. And of course, they're making the excuse. Well, it may take a little while. COVID-19. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, again, we want to wish everybody a happy, safe week. God bless. Of course, keep on squatching, guys. We'll catch you here next week, 9 p.m. Eastern, Squatch-D TV, and hopefully we'll have some good expedition video. I'll be working on that when I get back. And thanks to Ron Bowles for coming on tonight. Have a good night, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
Happy 4th of July.
folks. You've been watching Squatch-D TV. Join us each week, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, for the latest on the Bigfoot mystery. As always, we thank you for being our loyal viewers and encourage all to subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/Steve Kulls. As always, have a great week. Stay safe. God bless. And keep on squatching.